is more than just about golf.
All the organizations for every other sport kind of just focuses in on that one particular sport. And First Tee focuses on your family, your relationships, your goals, what you aspire to be.
Whether you're on the golf course or whether you're in school or wherever you're at. And so the First Tee program really develops you as an individual and helps you to achieve things and set goals for your life.
And that really made me want to be a part of the First Tee and have an impact on someone like they had an impact on me.
Being in the First Tee gave me a lot more drive and appreciation for understanding that it wasn't just about me, but I was helping show other young African American children that golf can be a gateway to life.
I think that's what really made the First Tee so enjoyable, is that I could take what I was learning here at the First Tee and go apply it at the house or go apply it in school and apply it at the golf course as well.
If First Tee was in session, that was our Saturday plan, and there was nothing that was going to change that. And it definitely kept us connected as a family growing up and kept us moving forward. I'm so thankful for the First Tee for what they've done and how they've brought our family so close and what it's done for us.
There's a lot of stuff that was set at a foundational level for me. Things like learning to set goals and become a leader. That really inspired me and encouraged me to continue to pursue further things. And then I completed college golf. I graduated 1 year early and got accepted into law school at the University of Tulsa College of Law. Just recently graduated from there now.
I am beyond excited to be a First Tee scholar. The impact that I believe it's going to have, I think it's going to nurture and it's going to really be a great transition for this next chapter of life that I'm opening.
It's just been really cool to be able to take the golf skills that you learn at the First Tee and turn into a Division I athlete. I mean, a lot of the people in my ACE class that I went through the program with went on to play collegiate golf, and it was just so cool to be a part of that close-knit group at the First Tee and then for all of us to go and play collegiate golf.
My goal is to have either my own clinic or to be a partner in a clinic, make that impact, be a positive face, a positive influence, showing people, it's possible.
At the First Tee, I learned you have a divot on the green, you fix your divot, and by doing that, you leave the golf course better than the way that you found it. And that inspired me that when I went to college and went to law school and now in my career, to be able to take things away and create better opportunities and leave those environments even better than I found it.
No, I think the First Tee is a wonderful organization that embodies so many values into kids' lives, and I think if you have the opportunity to involve your kid in it in any shape of way, I promise it's going to be a life-changing experience for them, because it has for me.
At this time, we ask that you please silence your cell phones and put them away. As a reminder, there is no note-taking, photography, or recording of this morning's session. To get things started, please welcome First Tee's Senior Vice President of Network Relations, Jennifer Weiler.
Good morning, First Tee. I am so excited to be standing here with you in this moment. We've been waiting 5 long years to get back together in person since our last meeting in Orlando, and it's so fun to see all of these great young people in the front row and all of your faces. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a great session this morning. It's really my honor to help us kick it off, and actually I'm going to get some help from one of our stellar alumni. Claire Alford is a sophomore at Santa Clara University. She's one of our First Tee scholars. She's studying public health science, and she will go to medical school one day. Last summer, she had the opportunity to get a scholarship from UC Riverside to work in a laboratory studying nanoparticles. Don't ask me to tell you what that is, but Claire could tell us. She's pretty amazing, and if you've had the opportunity to meet her like I have, I think you would agree with me that Claire has the possibility to change this world. So I asked Claire to please join me on stage. So today, Claire has a really fun job. She's going to interview a very special guest. So please help me welcome First Tee's Honorary Chair and the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush. So, Mr. President, thank you so much for being here. We're so honored that you would come and join us in your hometown of Dallas. I'm excited to let everyone know that we have a gift for all of you, a copy of President Bush's best-selling book, Out of Many One. But that's not all. So you're going to get a copy of his book, but you'll also get, he was kind enough to sign hundreds upon hundreds of book plates for all of you. So that will be available out at the registration desk later today and tomorrow. So please make sure to get your copy. This is a book, by the way, that spotlights the journeys of America's immigrants through 43 beautiful portraits that were painted by the president. So, without further ado, Mr. President, I think you're in really good hands.
Thank you, Jen.
Claire, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Alford, it's good to be with you.
Thank you so much. First of all, just thank you again for being here. We're truly honored to have you and have your support for First Tee.
Let me ask you a question. When did you join First Tee?
I think I was in 5th grade, so I'm coming up on 9 or 10 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
You still play golf, or are you studying too much?
A little bit of both, but you can never get away from
I know,
golf.
you're supposed to be asking the questions, but anyway.
I like it better this way. Less nervous now.
Anyway, thank you for being with me.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. As Ms. Weiler was just talking about, in your book, you've painted influential American immigrants. And
Right.
in your book, you have a portrait of the golfer Annika Sorenstam. Would you mind talking a little bit about what inspired you to include her and how golfers can have a real impact outside of the sport?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking. First of all, I'm honored to be the honorary chairman of the First Tee. And you might ask me this later, but if you do, just skip the question. Anyway, and the reason why is because I think the program works and is important for the future of the country. That's why I'm doing it. So I decided to paint immigrants because the language around the immigration debate was, I thought, didn't represent the true confidence and spirit of America. I think we need to honor and understand the importance immigrants make to our country. And I wanted to paint some people that you've heard of. Two, for example, were Madeleine Albright and Henry Kissinger. Think about this. These are two, as young people, Jews escaping fascism in Germany, in Kissinger's case, Czechoslovakia, in Madeleine Albright's case. And they come to America with nothing, and they end up being secretaries of state of our country. Now, that's a remarkable, welcoming nation that recognizes and fosters potential. And I also wanted Annika Sorenstam. I got to know her. Well, of course, I saw her on TV a lot. Probably one of the most defining events is when she entered the Colonial Golf Tournament as the first woman to challenge an all-men's field. And I thought that took enormous courage, and I thought it was pretty cool that she was willing to do that. But I met her at a First Tee program here in Dallas. And she put her husband out there in the range with a baseball glove and kept hitting wedges at him. I said, man, that's a trusting husband. But I was inspired by her gentle soul, and it turns out she is encouraging women or young girls to play golf. And so not only was she a great golfer, but she's also giving something back to the communities. And she lives in Central Florida, as I understand it. Curiously enough, she's a heck of a pickleball player. I talked to some guy that played against her and said, like, this is a cutthroat woman when it comes to pickleball. But anyway, thank you for asking. Golf is a sport that promotes good sportsmanship. The thing I like about it is it's a sport of personal responsibility. Like when you hit it in a sand trap, you can't blame somebody else for it. You say, oh, I would have done better, but so-and-so made me hit it in the trap. It promotes integrity. You know, like you don't roll it over in the rough. You play it as it lies. And that's kind of, those life lessons are very important. Honesty, integrity, and that's what you learn with First Tee. Don't you?
Absolutely.
The book's arrived. Yes, exactly.
Claire's going to become a doctor, by the way. Have you figured out what kind of doctor yet?
I'm not sure. I am an EMT right now, and I just started at an EMT squad at my school, so I'm thinking about something fast-paced, like maybe trauma surgery or ER doc, but I don't know for sure.
There you go. No hurry.
Well, this really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me, so I have to ask, what advice would you give to a 20-year-old college student like me who wants to build a rich and fulfilling life?
Communicate with people face to face. Too many of your age group feel like they're like doing meaningful communications via kind of text, 3-word sound bites. I'm reaching out. I'm going to send 6 words to somebody. You can't learn to communicate with somebody unless you look them in the eye and develop empathy and sympathy for the other's point of view, and it's impossible to do via machine and electronics. And so my advice is get to know people firsthand. And if there's differences of opinion, accept that's the way life is. But don't castigate somebody because they don't agree with you 100%. And so that's my advice.
I love that. I think very diplomatic and something needed in this culture.
Thank you.
As you know, our First Tee chapters are committed to teaching life skills like perseverance. Can you talk about a time when you persevered through a difficult situation?
9/11. That was a difficult situation. It wasn't as difficult for me as it was for the families there in New York whose loved ones were trapped in the burning building. Here's the interesting thing about 9/11, Claire. Let's see, that was 20-something years ago. You weren't even born. And yet, there are some important lessons in that event. One, kind of in general, things happen to you in your life that you don't want to have happen. And the fundamental question is not if they're going to happen, but how do you deal with them when they do happen? That's perseverance. Secondly, how other people live in the world matters to the security of the United States. In other words, we can't ignore tyrants and autocrats who diminish the rights of people and expect there to be calm in the world. And so, for a long period of time, we thought we were invulnerable to attack, and all of a sudden it happened from a remote part of the world that nobody thought could happen. And but that lesson seems to be lost, doesn't it? I mean, like, these people plotted and planned out of Afghanistan. We denied them a safe haven. All of a sudden, they got a safe haven again. And it could be a dangerous period for the United States. I don't mean to frighten anybody. I'm just giving you the reality of the moment. And so I was sitting in an elementary school promoting a really good reading program in Sarasota, Florida. I had known the first plane had hit the first tower, and I thought it was an accident. And a child is reading to me. And by the way, when you're the president, there's a lot of TV cameras around. And so this classroom was packed with TV cameras. And a child's reading to me, and Andy Card, my chief of staff, said, a second plane has hit the second tower. America's under attack. And, if you're ever running an organization and there's a crisis, the first thing for a leader is to project calm. because the natural tendency is if you don't project calm, it's going to create universal panic. My instincts told me that there's going to be universal panic anyway. Not panic, but doubt, disbelief. And, I vowed at that moment, Claire, that I'd do everything in my power to protect the United States from further harm. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but I knew that was my job. I focused at the task at hand. I mean, I didn't drop into an emotional fetal position and say, how come that didn't happen on somebody else's watch? I decided I was going to do something about it. And fortunately, we got a great country that rallied. And it made... Anyway, so I'm a Vietnam era guy. Again, that's ancient history for many of you. But there was a war that nobody understood, and there was a draft. And people didn't want to get drafted. And people's families didn't want to get drafted. And then all of a sudden we get attacked, and I said, we're going to defend the country, and millions volunteered. And there's no hesitancy. It's a remarkable country that produces citizens like that are willing to go and defend the country from further harm. And I hope you realize how fortunate we are to live in America.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I think your leadership was something that got us through that difficult time, and without it, it would have turned out a lot differently. So thank you again.
Well, I
for your
appreciate you
perseverance.
saying that. I'm not sure that's true, but anyway, thank you.
So for our last question, we'll do a fun one. What are your plans for Thanksgiving this year?
Oh, good. Yeah, those are hard questions. I am going to the ranch tomorrow, as a matter of fact, which is 2 hours and 10 minutes south of Dallas, west of Waco, which is halfway between Austin and Dallas. And I'm looking forward to being down there with Freddie. Freddie's our dog. And Bob the cat. So, and I'll be spending a lot of time, I think, riding my mountain bike, although I don't like cold weather. It means I may not be riding my mountain bike much. But unfortunately, our daughters and their families are not coming for this Thanksgiving, and thankfully we're not going there. But they will be coming for Christmas. I'm the proud grandfather of 4 children. Yeah, and my dear wife Laura, who by the way was a fabulous first lady, is very happy. Can you chip?
Can I chip?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, I can't. You know, if my back wasn't hurting, I'd ask you to give me a lesson. So anyway, First Tee is an awesome program, and you're an awesome woman, and I wish you all the very best, and I know you're going to succeed. And when you do, people are going to say, well, what caused her success? And it's going to be hard work, decent person, decent heart, and First Tee. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Not every day you start a meeting like that, is it, right? I mean, pretty extraordinary to have the 43rd President of the United States show up and kick off your 25th anniversary. Welcome. As Jen mentioned, you're all getting a book. I would highly recommend, if you get an opportunity, to read the stories. And I have had the book for a while, and we've featured it at a couple of events that we've done. And I told the president, you know, that I'm not much into art, you know, and I think what he does is great and everything, but the stories are so impactful. There's 43. He said to me, he goes, you know why I did 43? And I was like, yeah, I said I went to Ohio State, but I do know why you did 43. Thank you. Rhetorical question, Mr. President. But the one thing I did want to say about Madeleine Albright, which is kind of a cool thing in there, Madeleine Albright's father taught at University of Denver, and one of his students was Condoleezza Rice. Now, how crazy is that, right? And it's in the book, which is really pretty cool. So before we begin our business session, for those of you that would like to take photography, my left side's kind of the best. You can feel free to do that or take notes. We're good to go as far as that goes. I'll give you my one President Bush story, which my team was hesitant for me to tell you, but it'll give you a little perspective. So, took this job in 2018. You know, he comes to a handful of events, and I said, you know, to one of our board members, pretty close to him, I think I need to meet him beforehand. So we go up to Maine in the summer and get together, have dinner, and we play golf. And he is, so we have a little match, and you know, President loves golf, and you know, very nice player, strong, you know, hits it well. And we weren't teammates, and he picked the teams, and I played with our board member, and we beat him. We closed him out, you know, 2-1. And you know, throughout the round, you know, he trash talks, and. You know, and I hit some, in fairness, I hit some foul balls, right? And he's goofing on me, right? For some of these, you know, drives I hit, you know, pop-ups or whatever. So we're at the annual trustee outing 3 or 4 months later, and I decide to tell the story, right? I figure, you know, he's got a great sense of humor. If you've never seen him before, you got a little piece of it. So I tell him, you know, blah, 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 and the whole bit, and we closed him out 2-1. So I go sit down, and my wife looks over at me, and she goes, I don't think you should have told that story. And I'm like, what? You know, and she's like, I think you embarrassed him. So now the rest of the dinner, I'm like, you know, nervous about, you know, I'm thinking, retracing my steps about kind of what I said. Jay Monahan gets up, and he's going to introduce our scholar that's going to talk. And Jay says, oh, you know, I'm sitting there with John, you know, at dinner, and we were talking about, you know, what he learned, you know, through the first tee in the program. And one of the key things he mentioned was he learned the word judgment. He goes, I don't think Greg used good judgment. So it turns out to become a roast, you know, the rest of the night. And fortunately, the president still talks to me, and he's nice as far as that goes. So. Wonderful, wonderful man, and we're so honored. You know, he's celebrating his 10th year, and I think you all know that his father served as honorary chairman for 15 years. So, turning your attention kind of to the business session today, and I wanted to kick it off and talk a little bit about where we are as an organization and really what we're looking for kind of, you know, going forward. As Jen said, this is the first time in 5 years that, you know, we've gathered together as a group. This is my first meeting, and I'm just amazed at really the participation, the energy. We had a session with our board of directors, breakfast a little while ago, and had an opportunity to talk about, you know, some things that, you know, boards are facing as an organization. And I said this to them, and I'll say it to each of you. You know, thank you. Thank you for what you've done really for this organization, because you all have opportunities to do things either as a volunteer or professionally. And you know, we're so honored that you've chosen the first tee to make it a career for you or to volunteer your time. So, you know, thank you very much. I wanted to recognize our team that, you know, put this together. I think they did a fabulous job. I also want to thank the Dallas chapter, David Ramby, as well as the Fort Worth chapter and Kevin Long for their support, really, and we're in their backyard. And Kevin, longtime CEO, Fort Worth chapter, over 17 years, is pursuing his passion to pursue something else. So I'd love to give Kevin a wonderful round of applause. We have many sponsors to thank, and you'll see on the slide that we have just recognizing the partners that have really supported various things this week. I'd love to have a great round of applause for our sponsors and partners. Thank you. So I wanted to spend really just a couple minutes looking back, at the last couple of years. I was with one of our trustees yesterday, and I was like, isn't it great, 25 years? And he was like, how about the last 5 years? And it struck me when he said that. I mean, we've battled through COVID, of which we're still potentially battling through COVID. Change in leadership. Our team is effectively changed internally over the last 5 years, and we kind of continue to work forward. But the time I've been here, I mean, I'm struck by the energy, as I mentioned, and really the quality of people in this program, and the kids, and the great work that you're doing. So I'm so appreciative of what you do really every day. So the first thing that when we kind of looked back on is the brand. And what we tried to focus on when we were looking at the brand, and I tell people that it's more than a logo. It's how we're communicating externally to the public, what we want people to know of us, about how we fundraise around it, and what parents who are so vital to this connection, think about the First Tee when they look at it. I mean, the branding, yes, it's an external piece. We looked at something, youthful that we wanted, at least for the focus groups for kids, to help us put that together. But it was important for us to ensure that we're communicating the message of what our program does, developing young people into adults. And I think we've done a great job, and I think with your help, we continue to evolve on that. Our curriculum, was 20 years old when I came in, and done a fabulous job, had a great run. But for those of you that, have young people today, the way kids learn today isn't potentially the way that, that maybe they learned 20 years ago. So we partnered with Bain Consulting, a not-for-profit arm called Bridgespan, in 2019, and they looked at the curriculum and did a deep dive into the school program, into our after-school program. And they came back, and the great news is they validated it. They validated the success that the program was having. They offered some minor adjustments, age-specific adjustments, and the big thing they talked about was technology. And you're going to hear a lot more of that the next day and a half, of what we're doing and the investments that we're making in technology to connect with kids, to connect with coaches, and to connect with parents and individuals, and management that are leading our great chapters really across the country. The next thing we looked at is we looked at chapters. The chapters are the lifeblood of our organization. Our organization at headquarters' sole responsibility is to support the chapters. That's our function, is what we can do to try and help you be more successful in your marketplace. And what resources can we provide? We came out with a program that we called benchmarking to give you an opportunity. And I told the board earlier this morning that I had a board member in Chicago come to me, and he goes, I'm not sure that we can measure success. We don't know how to measure success. And I felt, shame on us for not giving you a template that you can take to market and internally evaluate what the key levers are and what people really throughout the various chapters and what our network are doing. And we've had great feedback and great success as part of that. We added several talented DCRs, individuals that either ran businesses or individuals that sat in your shoes as a CEO or as a program director, and we brought talent in to provide added resources as part of it. And it's something that we're going to continue to focus on, and it's the most important thing that we do really every day. We looked at risk, which is a scary thing to analyze, what potential risks that we have, internally. And the number one risk that, we all fear is, child safety. And it's something that it's a focus area for us. As you all know, we partnered with U.S. Center for SafeSport. CEO is going to be here this week giving an update on the youth space and how First Tee is performing in this area. But it's something that I think we all have to be diligent about on an ongoing basis. I think the great thing is that we've virtually and I say this and knock on wood, haven't had a problem that a lot of other organizations have had, and it's really attributed to you and the diligence that you've done, your coaches have done, and what the connection that they really made in ensuring that we have safety on a youth level. We're going to talk today and the next year about retention, which is so critical. We met with the Chapter Advisory Council on Tuesday afternoon, and I told them that we have tons of competition right now. It used to be, I don't know, when my kids were younger, it was like, all right, you got to pick a sport by the 8th grade. Then it was 6th grade. Now you got to pick a sport by the 4th grade. And kids have to commit. And if you aren't playing soccer or lacrosse or whatever 11 months a year, your kid's not going to move up to travel or premier or whatever the passion that you're pursuing. But we have to be diligent. Just because we had a great 25 years in the past, can't roll the ball out and expect that it's going to be here 25 years from today, because there is more competition. There's more youth programs that are out there. So what we try and find is, how do we keep those 14 to 18-year-olds, when kids go to high school, they get cars, they play sports, they get jobs, how do we keep them in the program? And there's two things that we focus on. One is our college scholarship program, which most of you are aware of. It's need and merit based. We pair these individuals with a mentor. We provide professional responsibility and development for them twice a year in Ponte Vedra through resume writing or mock interviewing, and then we help them get internships and ultimately help them get placed. We also put great emphasis in our participant events. We have 14 participant events and growing. The 3 new ones we added was the leadership summit that we do through PGA Tour Superstores, which has been a fabulous program that some 300 plus kids have an opportunity to experience and learn from leaders in leadership development. We created an event in Philadelphia called the Game Changers Academy, where young people have an opportunity to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and have difficult discussions around that. We finally created a proper tournament. We have kids that are excelling and competing at college level. They want to have an opportunity to play competitive golf. We created a national championship where kids are competing in college university golf courses. We did Clemson in 2021. We played at Notre Dame this year, and we're going to go to what do you guys rank 20th right now? I mean, seriously, come on. Come on. Although I did appreciate the beatdown on Clemson, seeing how Ohio State is like 1-6 against them, the last 5 years. So I did appreciate that. Hey, Trevor Lawrence, I love him. I'm a Jags fan. Okay, Travis Etienne, great. All right. Hey, you guys had your way with us. All right, so good for Notre Dame. We're going to Stanford next year, which will be cool. And we're working with others, and we have a pretty exciting announcement about the evolution of this. But my point is that these experiences are geared to 14 to 18-year-olds. One thing I would tell you is only about 2/3 of the chapters actually apply for these participant events. Brandon Luna, who who does a great job with our chapters. If you've got someone that you feel strongly about, you need to call them. You need to advocate on behalf of your kids to attend these participants. He's got the hardest job because he's picking amongst wonderful, wonderful young people for these things. Last thing I wanted to talk about was, fundraising. And I mentioned to the board $485 billion transferred to charities this year. 70% of it were donations by individuals. When I first got here, $4 million a year were going to chapters and grants. And this year we're going to give $14 million. We did the Chuck Schwab $25 million grant, which was so wonderful when we launched that. And we're hoping to do more of those things. So fundraising, big part of our focus. Looking ahead, the only thing I would say is the 7 items that I touched on, we're going to be diligent about those. Those are continual focus areas that we look at. But there are 4 areas that I wanted to touch on and just highlight for you. One is the technology piece. and the launch of this curricula and the launch of our app, I believe, and by all indications, that this will be the biggest thing, I think, to affect the First Tee in the next 25 years. And I know that's a pretty big statement to say, but it will be a model program for not-for-profits. Our board asked us, hey, go out and find another organization that has something similar. So these consultants went out and they're like, we can't find anything that's going to mirror what you guys are ultimately trying to do to reach kids from, age 6 to 18, the amount of coaches, the size, the bandwidth of this program. We can't find it. So it is a model, and it's something that we're proud of as part of it. And we've made a significant investment that our board has authorized us to continue, to be able to put the resources and talent internally to manage that. For those of you that haven't seen it, we have our version of the Genius Bar, our digital drop zone out the door, kind of to the left. Go by, see it. Our tech team is out there, and they'll provide a little tutorial for you. I mentioned the retention of kids. We're going to form a focus group of CEOs in the network to help us in providing opportunities and retention. How are we doing retention? What are we doing? One of the CEOs in our chapter advisory council brought up, a great point. You've got a coach, mentor working with a 7 and 8-year-old, and then they transition to a 10-year-old. How do they make that transition? We're going to have 14 coaching sessions, which, as you all know, coaches are the lifeblood of what we do next year around the country. Morgan Stanley has supported, an initiative to train more diverse coaches, and they're subsidizing that. But the key thing is connecting the right coach with the right kids, getting kids in our participant events and advertising those things, I think, as part of it. But retention has to be a big focus, for us to compete with outside organizations and other distractions that potentially kids have. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. People ask me, at times when we talk about, DE&I, they're like, why is that so important, for this organization? And I try and describe to them that, an individual that has an opportunity, a young person, to meet someone from a different community, from a different way of life, the lessons that they learn and appreciating, the differences. A lot of kids that, grow up in certain environments that are afforded a lot of things that kids from underserved communities are not afforded, they're really not aware of that. And what they take from that into high school, college, the workplace, and in life is invaluable. And that's the reason why we do it. That, and it's been part of the culture of this organization for 25 years. And it started with Joe Barrow, and it's continued. And you all have done an amazing job in carrying that banner forward. We got hurt badly with non-Caucasians and gender when COVID hit. Our numbers went, we were a model organization at 52% non-Caucasian, 39% gender diverse for the numbers, for the size of our organization and the kids that we're reaching. And those numbers, dipped through COVID, obviously for a million reasons. And we're in the process of rebuilding that. And we're going to reach out to all the chapters, and we're going to provide our great, we have an individual that works for us, Spencer, who's I call him a data scientist, and he produces, great data. And he went to every single chapter, and he calculated by zip codes what underserved communities that the chapters have and what their penetration is. And maybe you know it, maybe you don't know it. Certainly anecdotally you know it, and just looking at it every single day. But we ask you to look at those numbers and see if, in fact, in 2023, can I increase it 1%, 2%, 5%, whatever the commitment is, but be aware of it and think about what you're ultimately delivering, because we feel like if we're able to do that as a total organization, we're going to improve very, very significantly. And then lastly, we have a strategic plan that began in 2019, and quite honestly, when I started, I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to begin with a strategic plan. But at the end of the year, we started putting one together. COVID hit. We kind of backburnered it, not really knowing what the future was and where the bottom of this thing, through the pandemic ultimately was going to hit. And we have met in the last year, and we developed and we came up with kind of 4 pillars. But the most important thing that our organization has to do is everything we do, has to have impact. It just has to be measurable, and it has to have impact. And if it isn't, then I think we need to rethink it. But the 4 things that we came up with that we feel like are our focus areas as a complete organization at headquarters in support of you is, number 1 is providing high quality programs to youth. We think we're doing it. We think we need to continue to focus it. Strengthening our chapter leadership, critical. Without you, we're not successful. And we want to provide amazing participant opportunities beyond the chapter programs. And we have to maintain a strong brand, which I think we've done for 25 years. The end game for us, if we're able to achieve this, and it currently is happening in many markets, and we want it to happen at 100%, is chapters become important institutions in their communities where kids feel safe, enriched, and entertained. Young people graduate high school, they matriculate to college, military, or some post-secondary, and our alumni become pillars in the community, and they give back and help enrich others. And I know those are aspirational, and I like to think that in many markets, we're currently doing that. We want to do it across the board. I think if we can achieve that, then, we're going to pat ourselves on the back and say, job well done. So, you guys support that as a long-term vision? Yes? Hell yeah, right? So, in closing, my team, we're all around here. Everybody from headquarters came this week. If you need something, stop us. We'd love to, if I haven't met you, please introduce yourself. We so appreciate really the fact that you're here and that you've taken out a time of your schedule, to be here and support what we're doing. I want to encourage you to attend one of the 24 sessions. We have some fabulous speakers that are going to join us the next, day and a half. We're going to recognize some real leaders, some people that have made a significant impact in what we're doing. And again, you all should take great pride in what you've built here because you really have done an amazing job. So with that, we have a fabulous panel discussion coming up, and I want to introduce our next speaker. But first, please enjoy the short video.
Like a made-up dream, or is this really happening here? How could this even be? But it was reality, and it became my reality, and my reality literally overnight.
For me, it started 7 years ago when I walked into the office one day and there's this random letter postmarked from Attica Correctional Facility. And it's from an inmate named Valentino Dixon, who isn't a golfer, but says he's found peace drawing golf courses, and that he'd come across my name in the back issues of Golf Digest that he'd been using for reference material. He also says he's innocent, and of course I'm like, yeah, right. But I'm so captivated by his artwork that I've got to look into it further. And after some digging, I'm convinced he didn't do it.
What prompted you to turn yourself in?
I didn't want my friend to take a rap for something that I did.
Did he do any shooting?
No, he didn't. He didn't do anything.
So we publish a big investigation. It leads to more media coverage. It's a slow build. Then finally Georgetown University gets involved. And in the end, all of this pressure was enough for his attorneys to finally successfully overturn his conviction. In September of 2018, he walked free. He spent 27 years in prison for a murder he didn't commit.
The hard work is ahead of me to be able to help, change the system in some type of way.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Valentino Dixon and from Golf Digest, Max Adler.
Thank you. All right. Well, I know that applause was for Valentino, but I'm so honored to be with all of you here, people who are promoting the game of golf, which is a game I love so much. So thank you for being here and having us.
Hi, everybody.
Valentino, I feel like I ask you this question every time I see you, and I realize it's something I'll never fully understand, but only just trying to understand a little more. 27 years locked up for a crime you didn't commit. How did you avoid depression, bitterness, the very worst states of mental health? How did you do it?
I don't know how I did it, Max. I can just say it was the power of God, that, you know, I'm a walking miracle. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. You know, each year it was like God sent me a message to keep fighting, to not give up, you know, and I read over 500 books, and I read about suffering in the world, and I identified with it. And I read one book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning, and he was in a concentration camp for many years. He saw his family leave to never return, and eventually he came to the conclusion that he had to find suffering in his meaning, and I identify with that. You know, I mean, when you look at a 10-year-old kid that has cancer that's not going to live to see their 11th-year-old birthday. My mother had cancer 3 times, lung cancer, leukemia, ovarian cancer. I'm the only child. I was arrested on her birthday. And so I started to count my blessings. And it took me many years, I think about 7 years, because I was an artist as a kid, and I hadn't drawn or painted in 7 years. And my uncle says, hey, if you can reclaim your talent, you can reclaim your life. And I'm sitting in the penitentiary, one of the worst prisons in America, Attica, and I'm looking at him like, what the hell are you talking about? You know? And he sent me some colored pencils and some paper, and eventually I started drawing, and I drew for 20 years straight, up to 10 hours a day. And it wasn't until the warden came to me, because everybody knew me by then, I had 20 years in, and he says, hey, Valentino, could you draw my favorite golf hole? And I looked at him, and I was like, I never golfed before. I'm a kid from the inner city, and all I did was play football and basketball. You know, anyway, he brought the picture in, I drew it for him, he loved it, and it was my neighbor who said, hey, you should draw more golf holes. And I says, hell no, I don't know anything about it. No, you know. And one day, my neighbor threw some old Golf Digest magazines on my bunk. And I'm like, all right, here we go. So eventually I start going through the magazine, and I start pulling out the golf courses I thought was interesting and that I would like to draw. And for some reason, I started drawing these golf courses every single day, and it was different for me, because before that I had drawn everything from animals to landscapes to portraits. And eventually I started reading some of the articles in the Golf Digest magazine, and I came across Max's column, Golf Saved My Life. And each month he would profile someone who's going through a difficult time in life, and golf was the only time, you know, it made them feel better. You know, it strengthened their spirit. And so I correlated that with what I was going through. I had 20 years in, and I'm drawing these golf courses, and I never golfed before. And all the other inmates, you know, were in love with the golf drawings. You know, I had about 60 golf drawings I had did within a year before I reached out to Max. And I explained to him what happened to me, and of course I didn't expect for him to believe me, but I felt that the golf drawing gave me a chance, because I had written every news outlet in America. You know, I had a confession that cleared me, I had 7 eyewitnesses that cleared me, I had passed a polygraph, and most importantly, when I got arrested, authorities took my clothes and they confiscated my car, and they said if I fired a weapon that it would show. But that evidence they withheld. And so Max reached out after I sent him the drawing in a letter explaining what happened to me, and I thought the drawing would get him more than the letter, to be honest with you, you know. And he asked to read my trial, and I said once he reads my trial, he's going to know I didn't commit this crime. You know, my lawyer, I had a public defender, I couldn't afford a good lawyer. He didn't call one of the witnesses to testify that I didn't commit the crime. And he didn't even introduce the confession to the jury. And we had a videotape confession from the person who committed the crime. And so I didn't have a chance. And I complained that I was being railroaded, that I was being set up, framed, and of course, the judge and everybody in the courtroom looked at me like, whatever, we don't want to hear, we've heard that story before, you know. And this is common. And Max took a chance on me, you know. And
your art did get me, I will say. It was, I love golf, I love art. I usually don't like golf art, but it gets a little tacky.
Right.
Your work that was up here on the screen earlier, you know, you can't look at it without feeling the weight and heaviness of knowing where it was created. These beautiful, surreal golfscapes made from a 6x8 prison cell of cinder blocks. Tell us, from idea to getting the materials to creation, what is your artistic process? How do you make these?
Well, it was so difficult in Attica to get oil paints. They wouldn't allow it, or the correct size of paintbrushes or linseed oil. The stuff that I had when I went to Performing Arts High School for art. So all the things that I needed as far as a canvas to be able to stretch it, they wouldn't allow. But they allowed color pencils and paper. It was no big deal. It was like, whatever, they can have the color pencils and paper. So my goal became to make the drawing look like a painting. And it took me about 10 years to develop this style where I layered so many colors on top of each other until I got that paint-like look. And those are actually, you just seen some of the stubs that I kept. I have hundreds of stubs over those 27 years of being in the penitentiary. And these are all drawings that I did while in Attica. In fact, this shirt right here I designed also. But it was just a matter of, you know, what kind of legacy do I want to leave on this planet? Do I want to be known as the person who went to prison for murder and this is the way his life ended, you know? And that's what was pushing me more than anything. And when Max came into my life, it was like, okay, this could be it here. But it still took another 6 years before the courts would do the right thing and release me. And it took a combination of people. It's Max, as he spoke of Georgetown University. And it was the students that cornered the prosecutor during an interview. The prosecutor agreed to participate in a documentary. And they asked the prosecutor, hey, what happened to Valentino's clothes and his car? You guys tested these things, what happened? And he finally admitted after 27 years that they came back negative, they just didn't turn them over. Okay. And that was the underlining factor for my release. Not the 7 witnesses in the confession, but the forensics evidence.
You grew up in a neighborhood, I've been there a couple of times, that's so rough, without access to so much. A lot of the people in this room are running First Tee chapters, and their goal is to go to neighborhoods not dissimilar to yours and reach kids through golf and, you know, impart these core values that will serve them in greater ways in their life. Your hood, East Buffalo, yes. Present day, golf, right. Not the coolest thing. What is your advice to some of the chapter leaders here today? How are they going to connect with the 13 and 14-year-old Valentino Dixons out there?
Well, this is my dream. My dream is, I grew up in a drug-infested neighborhood, hopelessness, economic abandonment, and just social neglect. And when I left 27 years ago, or 32 years ago, because I've been out 4 years, when I left, it was bad. But when I returned, I didn't even recognize my neighborhood, you know. And I think that this is the common denominator across America, that half the homes were gone in my neighborhood, you know. Deer come through at night. The wildlife has taken over the neighborhood. And there's no community centers. So how do you give these kids a chance to learn something new or to introduce them to a world that they may never get a chance to explore, okay? And my goal and my dream is to build a community center in my neighborhood, a learning center, where I could teach these kids about values and believing in themselves, confidence, willpower, what it's going to take to survive in this world. Because all of us are dealing with something. Everybody in this room is dealing with something. And I've come to the conclusion that you just can't get around the obstacles that's going to come in your life, you know, and you don't get to choose what this, you know, whatever it is that you're going to be faced with. You don't get to choose that. But, you know, I'm here to tell you that you can survive anything. Anything. And even though I'm a non-golfer and I've tried to golf about 20 times, I'm just horrible. Like, we have footage. My swing is atrocious, you know. But one of the greatest things for me is meeting Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, and I told Tiger that he was going to win the 2019 Masters, you know. And he looks at me and he said, "I'm going to try my best," and I says, "No, you're going to win." And he won that year, you know. And when I met Jack Nicklaus, he said, "You remind me of somebody." I said, "Who?" He said, "A friend of mine. He's no longer with us." I said, "Who is that?" He said, "Nelson Mandela." He said, "You have the same spirit that he had. He wasn't bitter when he walked out of prison, and he did 27 years as well as I did, you know." And that was the greatest compliment I could have received, you know. But my goal is to find the next Tiger Woods in the inner city, you know, and we'll never know if that person is out there if we don't give them the opportunity, if we don't give these these kids in these type of environments the opportunity to at least explore, you know. So I would love to, you know, rent buses and pick these kids up and take them to a golf course and give them some lessons. Because when I was growing up as a kid, I can only remember one time we had a summer program where they picked us up and took us to some type of camp. And I was about 8 years old, and it stuck with me forever. You know, and, you know, nowadays these kids don't have anything, any type of memories that they can, you know, that just give them the inspiration, you know, to let them know that they have options in life, that they don't have to sell drugs, you know, or get involved with a crime and that type of activities, that they can be anything that they want to be in life.
More than anyone I know, you've truly been given a second chance in life. And I know you've been busy in the last few years making up for a career you never had the opportunity to have. You've published a book, you've sold art, you've done speaking engagements, you're running a restaurant, you got your clothing line. I picked up these socks out there. You guys should check out Valentino's booth. When you wake up in the morning, what are you thinking about?
Well, I'm thinking about how many lives I can change, you know, because if people look at me and say, how did he survive 27 years? Oh, that's crazy, you know. And some people think I'm crazy. They say, "There's no way he's got something loose up top," you know. You know. But I prided myself on, you know, having it together, you know, because when I would call home, it would be more dysfunction with my family, and I was like the black Dr. Phil, you know. Yeah, yes, you know. So, you know, I pride myself on, you know, and we have to be we have to have a worldly knowledge, meaning that we cannot just stick with one particular area in life, you know. We want to be successful in all areas. We want to be loving. You know, I know people that make a lot of money in the stock market. The only thing you think about is the stock market all day long, you know. You want to care about your neighbor, you know. You want to just try to make the world a better place in your own way. All of us are different, and we have to embrace that as well, you know. And I mean, that's the goal for me, is to be able to just share my story and help as many people as possible. I mean, I think that's what it's all about.
You know, you're trying to change the world. The First Tee is trying to change the world. It's taking on big problems. Looking into your case opened my eyes to just so much that's wrong with our criminal justice system. It's almost overwhelming to think about how you begin to reform it. Small steps, how do we even get started?
Okay.
And you hear prison reform all the time, you just kind of tune it out like, this is just too much. What does this have to do with me? You know, but it's a human rights issue here. It's not just a constitutional rights violation or a civil rights violation that's occurring in our justice system. You know, our system is not designed or equipped to give the poor person a fair trial, you know, and this is what we need to change. However, it's so far gone that the only thing we can do is reach out to our politicians and say, hey, reduce these sentencing guidelines. It's the reason why we have 2.3 million people incarcerated, because our sentencing guidelines are too harsh and too excessive. And I'm not saying not be, yes. Okay. Yeah. You know, my motto is, you know, how do we meet both sides' position here? Because you got this one side here saying, hey, you know, let people out and blah, blah, blah. And this side is saying, no, let's be tough on crime. So my motto is this: let's be tough on crime, but stop giving out too much time, okay? And have some compassion for people, some mercy. And President Bush spoke about the compassion and the empathy, you know, and we don't have this in the system. When these kids screw up, you know, coming from dysfunctional environments, et cetera, there's no understanding, there is no, we're gonna try to help this kid and give him a second chance. Just throw away the key. You know, it's almost like this person is not even a human being, you know. And, you know, some crimes that occur are unforgivable, okay? Let me be clear on that. Some crimes that occur are unforgivable. So you have people in prison that are serving 30 years for crimes that they should have received 10 years for. This is the problem. The sentencing guidelines are too harsh, and it violates our Constitution against cruel and unusual punishment. You know, and this is the problem here. Take away bail reform. I don't believe in that. If a person commit a crime, hey, you know, don't just give them bail or release them. Sentence them, but stop sentencing them to too much time. You give them too much time. You know, and I know guys that were sentenced to 20 years and right now have 45 years in prison because the parole board refuses to release them. Okay, and it becomes a money thing. You know, it becomes a economic, you know, we have to keep jobs for a certain class of people, which this is what makes it wrong, and this is what makes it inhumane. Yeah.
I know the clock up here is telling us we're running out of time, so I'm going to end with a final question, and I really appreciated our former president's answer about communicating with people in person and live. To all the young First Tee graduates here, yes. Advice on how to live a rich and fulfilling life.
Yes. Well, you guys are the future, and what I see in America now, and it's very sad, is that there is no communication. People don't even look at each other anymore. They don't. If you don't know me, I don't want to know you, you know. And this is not good. You know, this is not good. And we have to love each other. We have to have compassion for each other. We have to, because we may need compassion. You know, it's very important. You know, and God, you know, He gives compassion to us, so we have to give compassion to other people. This is very important. But most importantly, you know, believe in yourselves. Everybody here is different. Don't try to be like the next person. Be who you are. Embrace who you are. And that's it. You know, just be who you are. You know, and that's what makes you unique. You know, I was a little awkward when I was growing up. You know, yeah. You know, but yeah. I'm still a little awkward. You know, but you know, I've learned to embrace that. You know, to embrace that. You know, and you guys ever seen Forrest Gump? You know, I mean, he was, you know, he's picked on, he was criticized, but he accomplished so much. You know, and that's what made him special. You know, and it's just not a movie. In real life, you have a lot of Forrest Gumps.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tino, always great fun time with you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Cheers. All right. Awesome. Well done. All right, I guess we gotta go. Yeah.
my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up, no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet. I feel that hot blood in my body.
Thank you, Valentino and Max. That was incredible and very inspiring. Good morning, everybody. Please make it a point to visit Valentino in the expo area. He has a booth. So today, tomorrow, stop by and talk to him a little bit more. The Tim Fincham Leadership Award, presented by CapTech, recognizes an individual's commitment, service, and leadership to the First Team mission. This year, we recognize individuals from 2 chapters that are very deserving of this recognition. Each chapter will receive $5,000 thanks to our award sponsor, CapTech, a technology consulting company that's really working with us on our digital transformation for participants, parents, and coaches. And here with me today from CapTech is the co-founder and CEO, Sandy Williamson. Thank you, Sandy. Today, we honor one winner, and tomorrow, during our general session, the second. Now, Tim Fincham is going to be with us tomorrow. He doesn't yet know that this award has been named in his honor, renamed in his honor. And so, if you happen to see Tim between now and tomorrow's general session, please keep this under wraps. This is, it's going to be a really nice surprise for him. This morning, we're pleased to recognize Michael Brown, First Tee Greater Philadelphia. Michael's from Philadelphia and grew up across the street from the first green at Walnut Lane Golf Club, which is home to the First Tee Greater Philadelphia. It was at Walnut Lane that Michael learned to play the game and developed a love for the sport, working there through high school before getting a college golf scholarship at Temple University. Golf opened many doors for Michael, and that's why he's so passionate about providing this game to the next generation of young people. Michael's been leading First Tee Greater Philadelphia for 4 years as board president. And in that time, he's really spearheaded the renovation of the chapter's 2 facilities, Walnut Lane and John F. Byrne Golf Club. When Michael took over as president, the conditions at Walnut Lane were awful. Annual rounds were fewer than 12,000. He and executive director Bill Heineman worked closely with the city of Philadelphia to extend the lease and to rebuild the course. Fast forward, annual rounds now exceed 32,000. And he's taking the same template to renovate John F. Byrne, which reopened in May. To Michael, making an impact means providing the chapter's participants and the Philadelphia community with additional ways to access the sport of golf. Through his relentless dedication to the First Tee and its facilities, the chapter has grown to now serving more than 1,700 young people that come for weekly classes, and on an annual basis, serving more than 11,000 young people, hosting them for field trips at the 2 facilities. So I love this. Michael turned 60 this year, and he asked his friends and family in lieu of gifts to donate to First Tee Greater Philadelphia. $1.2 million was raised. Michael's leadership and dedication to his chapter and to the First Tee make him truly worthy of this honor. Everybody, please join us with a big round of applause for Michael Brown.
In 1997, there was a story in the Richmond Times-Dispatch on our first honorary chair, President George H.W. Bush. The story announced the founding of a new youth organization called First Tee, which caught the eye of Roddy Tattersall, who knew the concept would interest her husband. A few months after the introduction of the First Tee concept, Fred Tattersall, a Richmond business and community leader and golfer, led the charge to establish a chapter in Richmond. Fred is a trustee of First Tee, sits on our board of governors, and has been a devoted supporter of the organization nationally and locally in Richmond for 25 years. He has supported the Game Changers Academy since its inception, and 2 years ago developed and funded the First Tee National Championship. Fred is with us today to make an exciting announcement. Please help me welcome Fred Tattersall.
Thank you. Two simple truths. God is good, and he loves you, and he loves me, and he's been really blessed me. And the second is First Tee is making a difference. And one of the ways, and you heard from Greg McLaughlin about this, that he makes a difference is all the participant opportunities. I've seen a tremendous growth in those over the last 25 years. And one of the ones I want to talk to you today about is the National Championship, which I've been involved with for some time. From 2015 to 2019, we actually held what we called the National Par 3 Championship, which was at a par 3, a challenging par 3 in Richmond, Virginia. And 16 boys, 16 girls came to Richmond, stayed at the University of Richmond campus, which is a beautiful campus, a great academic institution. At the end of the 4-year period, 2019, sort of stepping back and thinking about what did we gain, what did we not gain from this, I realized that there were very few golf coaches inquiring as to what the results were of the par 3 championship, even though it was 36 holes, stroke play on a challenging course. I also realized that even though Richmond's a great school, it didn't have its own golf course, and there are a lot of great academic institutions across this country. So I went to Greg McLaughlin and I said, Greg, maybe we ought to think about moving this around, and we need to change the format. And so he got with his team, and Andrew Yeast, who was on the team, had worked with the AJGA, American Junior Golf Association, and suggested that we go to that format, which is a 54-hole stroke play format on a regulation course. So the next challenge, of course, was to find those universities that are outstanding universities that had great golf courses. And I think you heard Greg say earlier, the first year we were at Clemson. This year we finished up at Notre Dame. I thought I heard a cheer from somebody on that. And as Greg said, next year we're going to Stanford. So you can see we're moving it around the country to let the participants play in their areas if possible. One of the proofs that it's working from a standpoint of the coaches watching is that our girls winner, who was runner-up at Clemson and won this year at Notre Dame, got a full scholarship to play golf at the University of Richmond. So let me just say, my wife and I are extremely pleased with the trend of the national championship, and in order to help it continue through the end of the decade, today I'm announcing an additional gift of $1 million. Thank you. I love First Tee.
Thank you. This week, not only are we excited to finally come together after 5 very long years as a network, but we're also excited because we're hosting 2 national opportunities. First Tee Innovators Forum, which is made possible by our longtime friend and trustee, Mr. Doug McKenzie, and our First Tee Alumni Summit, which is presented by Gallagher. So round of applause, please, for those two events. These events are just two of our national opportunities that provide our participants and alumni a chance to achieve greatness, to meet new people, and to grow personally. For many of our teens, these national opportunities are the pinnacle of their time with First Tee. So we encourage you to continue to promote these national opportunities, not only for our teens, but also for our alumni, as we truly feel that they are the catalyst for the rest of their lives. Which brings me to one of our incredible participants here today with us, Parisa Majumdar. Parisa is with the First Tee of the Triangle, and she's been with that chapter for 7 years as both a participant and now a junior coach. Parisa credits First Tee for helping her become a better leader and developing her self-confidence. An avid piano player, this 15-year-old high school freshman already understands the importance of community. She is a tutor. She leads food drives for the homeless, and she fundraises for various local charities. In Parisa's words, small actions can make a big difference. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Parisa Majumdar.
Is the clicker up there on the...
Hello, everyone. Okay. Because of the First Tee, I stand with you here today as a confident, resilient, driven, and optimistic student athlete with high hopes of achieving great things. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for being here. My name is Parisa Majumdar, and I'm an ACE-level participant at the First Tee of Triangle located in North Carolina, and I am honored to have the opportunity to share my perspective with all of you. I cannot even begin to thank all the hardworking and wondrous staff of the First Tee who've dedicated a part of their lives to help teaching kids about golf and life skills. Without them, I'm sure me and the other 27 student participants here today wouldn't be here. Looking back on my journey to where I am now, and while I didn't realize in the moment, I now see that every event, experience, and person impacted me to be the person I am today. While happening, it seemed like the First Tee classes, play days, events, and clinics were all just an opportunity to play golf with my friends. Since becoming a volunteer coach, my perspective has shifted, and I've seen the other side of the aisle. Participating and volunteering has helped me realize that this is so much more than just a game or junior sports program. It's solidified everything my coaches have been teaching and reinforcing every step of the way. You know, seeing a kid light up when they hit a shot they've been trying to hit for weeks, or watching kids get out of their cars, run to class, and give their coach a big hug because they haven't seen them all week. First Tee's work is more important than it's ever been, and due to the pandemic, kids trying to return to the classroom and gain that confidence back in social situations. For this reason, I want to expand my participation as a junior golfer in the First Tee and how I was able to stay on track during these difficult times. Through the pandemic, my participation in the Google Classroom, hosted by my chapter, reinforced the values I've been taught prior to the pandemic. We engaged with each other through conversations and that I've been taught prior to the COVID lockdown. It helped us remain physically and socially active as peers, and we remained in touch even when we were further apart than ever before. Long before the pandemic, First Tee helped expand my golf knowledge and gave me the motivation to persevere and keep going even when I found myself frustrated with the game. In these moments, I wasn't finding interest in golf and I wanted to give up. I'm sure we can all relate. In these moments, I found the support and encouragement from my coaches and peers, that added confidence I needed to push through the adversities. And I continued to practice, ask for help, and commit to bettering myself. I found a love for the game that I wouldn't change for anything as I grew up as a person. This has been something I kept with me as I tackle new challenges and experiences. When I was younger, I would face a lot of anxiety and be really nervous when it came to tournaments and different competitions, specifically swim meets. Swimming has been an important part of my life. And that pressure and nauseating feeling of needing to do well, or else you'd let everyone down, was just completely overwhelming. But as I grew older, I benefited from that growing confidence and perseverance through connecting with mentors and practicing to help me get through the tough times. Additionally, through First Tee, I was able to develop many leadership qualities. I was always so anxious about not fitting in and making mistakes, and I thought I wasn't good enough or portraying the person I wanted to be. But in overcoming that fear and finding myself, being confident really changed my perspective on life. I took up public speaking, perfect timing, I guess, and now I'm more comfortable and patient that everything will work out in the end. On the golf course, I became more confident in my shots, even though I still mess up here and there. Another important value in my life is integrity, because what you do when no one's looking is what defines you. And we all know how relevant that is to the game of golf. We have to be able to keep accurate score and call ourselves out for penalties even when no one's around. Integrity helped prioritize not just who I am as a person, but who I am as an athlete. I realized through First Tee that my authentic self is enough for those who are willing to support me. The thing that makes the First Tee so special is that it's not just about golf, but the life skills that come along with it. It's so much more than just a program for me and so many others. And I'm here participating in an Innovators Forum with 27 other people, and I know that we all will leave here Saturday with new friendships that will last a lifetime and new skill sets that will guide us through the next chapters of our life. Again, I'm also thankful that you all are here to learn, to grow, to listen, and build game changers in each of your communities. I know that long after my time as a participant at the First Tee ends, not only will my volunteering continue, but so will the impact for other kids like me across the First Tee network. You don't hear it enough, and other kids like me on the First Tee don't always realize in the moment, but I will definitely speak on their behalf that we are all so grateful for the part you've played in our growth. Thank you so much.
I'm going to quickly ask the chapter network here today to give another round of applause, not only for our Innovators Forum teens, but our incredible alumni that are here for the Alumni Summit. It is my pleasure now to introduce another game changer for First Tee, Ryan Graff. Ryan Graff started his journey with First Tee in 2000, serving as a coach and then an executive director at the chapter level before joining headquarters in 2003. At HQ, he truly serves a critical role. He's a caretaker of our curriculum and coach training programs. He's responsible for ensuring that the First Tee's programs stay true to our core. Please put your hands together for the man, the myth, the legend, our Vice President of Programs, Mr. Ryan Graff.
Good morning, First Tee. I'm excited to be here with you in Dallas this week. What an exciting time, 25th anniversary. How time flies. For the next 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the heart and soul of First Tee. We'll share new developments regarding coaches. We're going to share and provide updates regarding our curriculum evolution. And we're going to bring it all together through gamification. As Greg mentioned, coaches are the lifeblood of our organization. So what is a coach? The word coach comes from an old English word, coach. A coach was a carriage that took important people to where they wanted to go in life. First Tee coaches serve a related role today in that they help young people discover their journey, their destination, and support them to get to where they want to go in life. At First Tee, we believe experiences are our best teacher, and First Tee coaches are mission critical to creating these learning experiences. Coaches design intentional lesson plans. They provide and deliver games and activities where young people can acquire life skills. And most importantly, coaches develop impactful relationships. Over the past few years, many kids and teens have struggled through online schooling and social distancing. But our coaches were there. Our coaches were there to maintain social connections and provide quality outdoor learning. If you're a coach or have served in a coach the last 3 years, please stand. Let's show our appreciation for our coaches. To that end, we understand that we need more coaches. We need to recruit more coaches to serve current and future participants. To that end, First Tee has shot its first ever public service announcement to recruit more coaches, and I'm very excited to share it with you now.
I really wanted to give back to students, just like my coaches gave back to me.
I think for someone to be a really great coach, they have to be a good listener.
They don't care what you know until they know that you care.
You don't have to be a golf expert to be a First Tee coach.
You get to compare the obstacles on the golf course to their obstacles in life and how they're going to overcome it.
If you're really about the next generation, you got to give up your time and your knowledge right now.
As Coach Janae said, the time is now. The time is now to recruit more coaches and more diverse coaches. Word of mouth has been the most cited strategy to recruit coaches. But going forward, we will be more intentional in how we go about recruiting coaches and diverse coaches. First Tee will launch a national digital advertising campaign using a version of this PSA. We are going to drive more coaches to your doorsteps, so stay tuned for more details. Once we recruit prospective coaches, they will land at a virtual front door on your chapter website. Yes, we're bringing back a standard form so prospective coaches enter through the same virtual front door. Chapters will then manage these leads through Salesforce. This will provide insights as to where prospective coaches see and hear our collective recruitment efforts. Once a coach is onboarded, they begin their training journey. Assistant coach training is online, asynchronous, available at any time, and this assists and provides support for coaches to start to assist with delivery of classes. Level 1 is in person at your chapter, led by chapter staff, for coaches to lead the delivery of classes. Then level 2 and level 3 go deeper into coaching strategies to support tweens and teens. Level 4 is to support chapter program leaders to be successful in delivering their level 1 coach trainings. Last but not least is level 5 training. This is for our national trainers. Our national trainers lead the delivery of level 2, 3, and 4 trainings. Our collective investment in coaches is critical to achieving the impact we desire. And collaboration is at the center of how we support developing coaches. I want to give a special shout out. On the screen are the names of our First Tee national trainers. They spend time away from their chapters, some 3 to 4 weeks per year, to assist training and mentoring the next generation of coaches. Coach development would not be possible without our national trainers. Please join me in thanking our national trainers. I'm excited now to bring to the stage my colleague, Kristen Westberg. Kristen joined us in 2021, and we are grateful for her leading our curriculum evolution. She holds 2 master's degrees, one from Vanderbilt in education, and a second in youth development leadership from Clemson. In addition to that, she has over 12 years experience in curriculum writing and publishing industry. Please give a warm First Tee welcome to my colleague, Kristen Westberg.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you today, celebrating 25 years. As you know, we have been on a journey of modernizing our curriculum, updating it, and making it more relevant to kids today and preparing for the future and the next 25 years. The evolution began in 2019, and when I arrived in 2021, I was tasked with taking all of the hard work, the recommendations from Bridgespan, all of the feedback that you in the network offered and said was needed, and applying all of that to bring to life what you now know as our refreshed age-based curriculum. Throughout 2022, we rolled out the key components: the parent registration portal, the commitment to being a game changer, updated coach guides, new lesson plans, and curriculum resources. In 2023, we are going to be focusing on bringing all of our chapters on board. Currently, 100 chapters have already converted to age-based programming, and in 2023, we're going to help the others along, as well as rolling out elements of gamification and digital features, which you will hear more about shortly. By 2024, we will have full network adoption. Everybody's going to be utilizing the refreshed content, and program research will be coming as early as 2025. But what I would really like to talk about today is a piece of our curriculum that has not yet been refreshed, but is certainly not going away, and that is ACE, First T's capstone experience. This past year, we engaged with the network via focus groups and surveys, and the top 20 chapters that are currently delivering ACE programming. I want to give a huge thank you to all of these chapters for offering your time, your insights, and your ideas. We are going to take everything that we heard, as well as input and ideas that were offered by members of our Participant Advisory Council. And over the next year, we are going to begin updating and refreshing ACE. I'm really excited about this. In the game of golf, an ACE is one of the most exciting achievements, and it is my hope that our ACE designation becomes as recognizable as the Eagle Scout or the Gold Award, immediately understood to be an achievement that has required hard work, dedication, and a commitment to service and others. One of the things that we will be doing over this next year, in addition to refreshing ACE, which will become available in early 2024, and again, we think this is a really important part of retention for our teens, but we have a trustee donor who has generously agreed to award chapter grants starting in 2023 to participants who go above and beyond with the community service project in our ACE program. So really excited to share more about that with you shortly. But coming to the stage now to share with you more about the modernization process that we are on and the other exciting elements that are coming down the pike, I'd like to welcome to the stage First T's soon-to-be Director of Instructional Design, Lexi Milford. Lexi has been with First T for over 12 years, and she has served in a variety of roles, including volunteer coach, program director, executive director. For the last 3 years, she has worked with over 40 chapters as a director of chapter relationships with us here at headquarters. In addition, she has begun her transition into her role as instructional designer, working with our programs team to bring participant engagement, retention, and progression to life in new ways. And she's going to explain what all of those words mean right now. Lexi.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kristen. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you all for being here. So before I dive in, quick show of hands. Who here tracks their steps? We could dance, that's okay. Who here tracks their steps? Or collects airline points or hotel points? Or obsessively changes your cashback credit card rewards to max those out? It's okay, safe space, raise your hand. Yes, okay. So all of those are real-world examples of that word you keep hearing us say, gamification. But why do brands and companies do this to us? Well, we can all attest, gamification motivates us to engage in some product or service that a company or organization is pushing out. First T has actually been doing this for 25 years. Well, 20 years. Actually, it took us 5 years to figure out that talking about life skills and then going to play games wasn't actually working. So when we seamlessly integrated those, that's when the real magic happened. So games have been our way to engage kids in learning life skills and building character for a very long time. And that is not going away. What is changing, though, is how, where, and when games show up in our programs. So let's take a peek back. We've been telling kids to take a pen or a pencil, write on a piece of paper to prove that they knew what we were trying to teach them. And then in all their years with us, we gave them 4 chances to level up. And then we put that 7-year-old in a learning environment with a 14-year-old. And then we had big academic words like assessment and certification. And then at the end of the day, we asked you all to go in and manually update every single record to tell us if a kid and when a kid progressed. Let's talk about where we're going. We're going to start leveraging technology to create additive experiences for kids and coaches through apps. We're developing some ways for real-time tracking of participant engagement. We're going to give kids way more opportunities to be recognized for the amazing things we see them do. We're going to let teens be with teens, and maybe even bring a friend to class. And we're going to drop those big academic words and introduce a new recognition and reward system using stickers and badges. You guys are all actually getting a taste of that here with that awesome yellow bag tag you picked up at registration. So play the game, fill the card, win prizes. We can even gamify this meeting. All this to say, though, it's a pretty big transformation. So I want you to remember there's a few things that are not changing. Prioritizing that relationship between a coach and a kid, and using games to create exciting and engaging learning experiences. These are key differentiators of First Tee and are not changing. That relationship and the use of games to engage kids to learn life skills and build character are and will remain central to everything that we do. We're excited about the future because we're expanding our comfort zone, personal growth, growing through challenge, the things we make our kids do all the time, so that we can show up in ways that will only benefit our participants. And now, I am very excited to share with you a sneak peek inside First Tee's new participant app. Pretty cool. All right, we're excited about the future. Ryan came out, talked to you about the ways that we're going to collectively work together to find and develop amazing coaches. Kristen shared where we are in the midst of this super exciting time in our history as we evolve our curriculum. And as technology continues to develop and roll out to you, I just want to reiterate and remind you that we are in this together, and we are here to help provide you training, resources, support, so that you all have everything you need to create meaningful and impactful experiences for kids. You might have questions. That's okay and great. Please come visit us at the Digital Drop Zone, chat with our team about this journey that we're all on together. Thanks, everybody.
morning. Barbara A. Douglas and Dr. William J. Powell had many significant accomplishments to the game of golf over their years. Their lifelong commitment and contributions to the game helped really bring diversity to the industry.
Barbara Douglas was a trailblazer within the USGA. I had a good fortune of working with her for a number of years in the LPGA context and can confirm she was an amazing woman. Dr. Powell is the only African American to design, build, own, and operate a golf course in the world. This honor, named in their honor, recognizes chapters that demonstrate outstanding leadership and commitment to promote ethnic diversity within the First Tee Network, at their chapter, and in their community.
Today, we have the honor of recognizing 2 chapters, each receiving $5,000, thanks to our longtime partner, the Toro Company. Since 1998, they have contributed to participants through the Future Leaders Forum, and most recently gave grants to 100 chapters to support diversity, equity, and inclusion grants to move the measure forward. We're so thankful to be joined today by Judson McNeil, President of the Toro Company Foundation.
For our first honoree, advancing diversity has been a hallmark for their chapter's entire 25 years. It is their legacy. 50% of their staff is diverse, 37% of the board, 51% of their volunteers. 85% of their recognized coaches are women or ethnically diverse. Since 1997, they've served kids and teens in underserved communities throughout their service area. They've had active partnerships at 11 community centers in their local Parks and Recreation Department and are engaged with Boys and Girls Clubs throughout their state. 63% of their school program locations are Title I schools. In 2021, they created the Barbara Washam Community and Equity Award and the Marvin Collins Sportsmanship Scholarship, which provides educational and leadership opportunities for underserved kids and teens. I am pleased to congratulate the first recipient of the Barbara A. Douglas and Dr. William J. Powell Diversity Award, presented by Toro, and welcome representatives from that chapter on the stage to receive the award. Congratulations, First Tee, Delaware.
Congratulations. Oh, I'm so excited for you.
Congratulations. You earned it.
You guys go. Go behind.
We got a big team here.
You guys can all head backstage and do some
Stay
more
up here. Stay up here.
You can head backstage and do some more pictures if you'd like to.
Okay.
Congratulations. For our next honoree, this chapter's strategic diversity initiatives really focus on that journey of continual exploration, growth, and evaluation to advance diversity not only at their organization, but within their community. It is evident in their drive to engage with diverse segments of their community. Each of their 9 program locations is strategically focused in an area where it's urban, and they make sure that they break down access and any payment barriers. They have school and community program partners, and those are also very strategically focused. Over 65% of their school program partners are Title I schools, and over 90% of their community partner programs are in the most diverse segments of their population. They have this neat marquee diversity initiative. It's appropriately called Game Changers. It's a special program that provides free transportation as well as healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, lunch, and snacks for the kids. In their own words, they say that the participants went home each day with a full belly, and what's even better is the staff and volunteers go home with full hearts. Please join me in congratulating our second recipient of the Barbara A. Douglas and Dr. William J. Powell Diversity Award. Welcome, First Tee, Greater Charleston. Come on up. Congratulations. Yeah, you're welcome. Congrats, you guys. Congratulations. You're welcome.
How's everybody doing? Yeah. It's great to be here, and it's also great to be a Georgia Bulldog. Go Dogs. Hey, I had to. Y'all talking about Clemson and Notre Dame. We beat both of y'all, so there you go. We'll see. I have today the honor as well as the privilege to introduce Ms. Jerice Colon, the CEO at the Center of SafeSport. And you guys know I don't have to tell you how important youth safety is to us. It's our number one priority to provide our young people as well as our adults a safe and quality program. Jerice leads the strategic vision and the direction of the center to ensure athletes safe, supported, and strengthened to do the things they need to do from the Olympic and Paralympic movement. Under her leadership, the center's led the successful effort to pass Empowering Olympic and Paralympic and Amateur Athletes Act of 2020, which, number one, established protection for athletes. 2, it secured long-term funding. And 3, it solidified the center's role as the nation's only independent watchdog for athlete safety. Jerice previously served as the National Vice President of Child and Club Safety at the Boys and Girls Club, of America, where she developed the organization's safety policies and initiatives for clubs across the country. She also served as the Executive Director of the Prevention and Outreach for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and led their prevention and education programs for 15 years. It's safe to say that Jerice is the nation's GMB of youth safety. And if y'all don't know what GMB means, that stands for Good Mama Bear. First Tee family, please show your love for Ms. Jerice Colon.
Good morning. Thanks for that introduction, Calvin. I don't think anybody's ever called me a good mama bear before, but I will take it. It's really wonderful being here with you all this morning, helping to celebrate your 25th anniversary. It is quite an honor just to be in business that long, let alone have and see some of the accomplishments that you have as a group over these last almost 3 decades. So congratulations. And I'll have to say, the next time though that I am asked to speak, I'm gonna ask more questions about who's going on before me, because having to stand on the stage after President Bush, Valentino, Parisa is quite the footsteps to follow in, so I hope I do all right. The Center for SafeSport, our mission is threefold. One, it is to really make sure that the Olympic and Paralympic movement and the athletes and the coaches that are part of that movement are safe. And we do that in a number of ways, but really through education, individual accountability, and organizational accountability. And when many people think about the center, they jump to what we're probably most known for, and that is the investigation of sexual, physical, emotional abuse and misconduct within the movement. And the center has jurisdiction over roughly 11 to 14 million people who participate within the Olympic movement each and every year, which includes Team USA, but it also includes parents, coaches, doctors who support the millions of children and youth who are part of the Olympic and Paralympic pipeline. And this includes your local gymnastics studio. It might include the local hockey team or the travel hockey team that your kids might be a part of. And it certainly includes the many aspiring golfers who you interact with each and every day. And most of these individuals and most of these interactions that we have with kids are positive. In fact, that's what drives a lot of athletes, especially kids, to keep practicing and to keep playing. But unfortunately, there are far too many people that exploit the position of authority and with the sole purpose of hurting our kids. In fact, we receive more than 100 reports of abuse and misconduct every week. So my team not only investigates these allegations, and as you can see, 100 reports a week, last 5 years, more than 12,000 resolutions. That's a big, sometimes daunting and scary number. But my organization, half of our organization is really dedicated to the investigating, kind of righting these wrongs. And so in addition to investigating, we also levy sanctions to remove, sometimes permanently, bad actors from sports that shouldn't be allowed to be around our kids. And so far, we've removed about 1,800, which is more than the entire, yeah. It's a big number, but every time we do that, we make sport a little bit safer. And when you think about the Center for Safe Sport, while this is a really important part of our job and a big important part of our mission and how we protect sport and really going to make culture change, the center is really so much more than that.
Everyone loves a champion. Someone whose performance puts them head and shoulders above the rest. But not all champions wear a medal or hoist a trophy. At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, we see champions everywhere we look. In every sport, on every court, we're building a foundation to ensure all athletes are safe, supported, and strengthened. We believe abuse can be prevented by taking a hard look at how we coach, how we train, and how we interact after the last whistle. We have provided over 2 million Safe Sport trainings. At the U.S. Center for Safe Sport, ending abuse is not just our job, it's our promise.
So we've got a big job, and we play a really important role, not only within the Olympic and Paralympic movement, but across the entirety of sport. And we're seeing more and more parents, coaches, and organizations look to the center for support, for education, for guidance, best practices, and really as a model for how to truly keep athletes safe and start changing the culture of sport. And that's why I'm actually here with you today, because First Tee is doing just that. Because as individuals and as an organization, each of you in this room has stepped up as part of this organization. And First Tee has taken steps to protect athletes and ensure coaches are SafeSport trained. And something that many sporting organizations really haven't done yet, so you're really leading the way. And it is a true honor to be here with you today because I'm surrounded by people who truly care about athletes and people who truly care about changing culture in sport. For the last 5 years, the center has worked diligently to change culture in sport. And what I've learned and what I am sure many of you already know in this audience is that changing culture is hard and it really takes time and focus. It's intentional. And for us, there are 3 things that we need to drive if we're going to be successful. And that's continuous learning, ensuring the understanding of relevant policies and practices, ensuring they're implemented, and ensuring that we drive accountability. And we spend a lot of time teaching coaches, parents, kids, and others, how to recognize, respond, and report abuse. And we do that because it is the foundation of youth protection, but it's also the foundation of youth development, which many of you are well versed in. And ensuring that the many kids and the many people that are in our kids' orbit, whether that is at home, at school, or on the course, knowing the signs of abuse and how to empower them to do something about it is really critical. And learning is just like anything else we do. Like several years ago, I'm getting old, I decided to take up golfing. And this is one of the many sports that I'm very bad at. It didn't take much time to realize that, especially, it takes me a lot of time to pick up things, especially things with such eye-hand coordination, which I don't really have a lot of either. So I took some lessons and I hired a pro. And it's important to know at the time this happened, I really didn't know much about the game. So when I showed up to my lesson, I was really impressed and a little bit scared because I saw all these kids there and they were way better than I was. And I'm from Denver and that happens on the slopes as well because kids are fearless. And so I was terrible, but I did manage to hit the ball. I actually hit someone with the ball. Oops. But over time, I learned and I got better. And I bought some clubs, they were the right height, I went to the range, and I eventually made it to 9. I'm still yet to tackle 18. But while my poor golfing was amusing to my friends, and it was really hard for me, but I stuck with it because eventually I knew that it would become easier, and it was worth it to stick to it. And I think a lot about that when we're creating content for coaches and athletes, because we know it can sometimes be overwhelming. You're probably not going to get it right away, but when you do, and when it finally clicks, it feels good because you know that it was worth it. And although you may not need to use this information or these skills each and every day, when the day comes, you'll be ready. And I'm happy to report that First Tee trains 5,000 coaches every year to be ready. That is 5,000 individuals that are putting our kids' safety first, all of you in this room included. And in doing so, you all have joined a growing movement of 4 million strong of coaches, trainers, parents, administrators, board members that have made safety and continue to make safety a priority. That's 5,000 people who understand how to report and respond and prevent abuse. That is 5,000 people who are putting kids first. And that's 5,000 people who are stronger together. So you've joined this movement and it is growing. And I just want to give yourself a round of applause because that is not something that every organization has done or will commit to do. And training is just the first step in culture change. Culture change really requires understanding because being armed with knowledge is good, but knowing and understanding how to use this information is really what makes us great. And whether that's understanding the best coaching techniques or understanding the best way to teach kids or understanding what the policies are to keep them safe, it's the understanding that will take us to the next level. So in addition to creating quality educational content, we've spent a considerable amount of time focusing on policies and helping organizations implement model policies, including First Tee. And First T's policies cover a number of things, including prohibiting one-on-one contact, all forms of misconduct, background checks, communications, and certainly requiring education and training for all of you. And when I think about culture change and how to drive it across sport, it's hard not to think about how all these things really amount to accountability. Because when you're driving accountability, when you think about training, education, and policing, it's the accountability that's really going to take us forward. And accountability is the cornerstone of culture change. It's what takes us from good to great. And it really proves and it shows the world that you truly mean what you say. Accountability also signals to parents and athletes that there are consequences for actions that no one is allowed to skirt the rules. You know, when I joined the center about 4 years ago, this was something that the Olympic and the Paralympic movement struggled with. It was something that athletes and parents and others really didn't believe that existed within this massive movement. And there was this feeling that only the rules only applied to a handful of people, or didn't apply to a handful of people. And so as an organization and as a movement, we really needed to not only build accountability, but we needed to demonstrate it. So we started with drafting policies and every single national governing body would adhere to. And while many people were happy that these rules were finally in place, we did get a lot of pushback. But mainly because it was different. It seemed hard, it was time consuming. And I believe a lot of it was just rooted in fear of the unknown, that fear of things were changing and that something different was about to happen. And I hear from a lot of coaches that are confused, they're worried or scared that they're gonna do something or say something that's wrong. And as a result, be removed from the very thing that they love, which is coaching. But accountability isn't about catching someone doing something wrong. That's not our goal. It's about acknowledging that something has happened and taking action so it doesn't happen again. So when the education and the learning and the understanding and the accountability are all in place, that's when real change starts to happen. And I talk a lot about culture change, probably a little bit too much, but it's because I truly believe that it's possible. And I believe that it's already happening. And while not scientific, there are a few indicators that I've seen that really help me, believe that we're charting in the right direction. And first and foremost is that we're all here in this room. The fact that First Tee has made and continues to make this a priority is progress. Again, not a lot of organizations are willing or able to do that. Secondly, I mentioned that we're getting 100 reports a week. To put that into context, our first year opening, we got 300 reports that entire year. And so we've seen like a 40% increase in reports just in the last 2 years. But behind every number, behind every report is a real person. And that can be a little daunting, but what it means to me is that people are reporting. And the more that we talk about it, the more that people report, the more knowledgeable that we all become. And people ask me a lot, well, if these numbers are growing so significantly, does that mean that the situation's getting worse? And the answer is no. I think people are simply becoming more comfortable and understanding that there is a place where they can go to report, whether that be their national organization, someone that they trust, or the Center for SafeSport. And I think the most important thing, particularly for me as we are looking at change and progress over the last couple of years, is that the reports that we are starting to get, they're changing. For a long time, we only got reports of sexual abuse and misconduct. And to be fair, we still get those. But we're also starting to get more reports of emotional abuse and physical abuse. But what's interesting about them all is that in the life cycle of this report is changing. And so people are starting to call us before something happens. So they're calling us when rules are being broken or bent. They're calling us before when they see that something is happening that's not quite right, that they know could potentially lead to abuse. And so for us, getting reports earlier, before abuse happens, and giving tools to organizations to really address it before it gets out of hand is not only, I think, a huge step in the right direction, but it's a signal that everything that we do every day, all of the time that we have spent, particularly on this issue, is starting to work. And so, that's happening right here in this room. And, each of you continues to play a really critical role in that, because the steps that you've made so far are impacting real kids. And not just on the green, the time, the attention, the focus, the sportsmanship, the dedication that you have, it really supports youth. It reaches well beyond practice and playing time. I can't tell you how many times we get phone calls from coaches because they've had a disclosure from a child, or because they've seen something that's not quite right, not only in sport, but just in their everyday life. And so the information and the tools that you've all been provided and continue to learn and build on will certainly impact the game of golf for years to come, but it will impact just overall society, which I think is, what makes sports so special, because, it has this way to gather people together, but it also has this way of building this camaraderie across an entire nation, and making sure that space is safe for kids, and particularly those who are coming up, I think is really important. Because as we all know, when a kid feels safe, supported, strengthened, especially by the adults in their lives, they simply do better at everything. They thrive at school, at home, on the green. And so next time when someone asks you, why is this even important? Why should we spend time on this? Whether it's a coach, an administrator, a board member, a friend, I want you to think about what happens if you don't, right? What happens to those folks who are not part of First Tee, who are not willing to make this a priority? I don't want to think about that, right? Because the stakes for me, and I think for all of us in this room, are way too high. And so the time that we spend today will ultimately impact all of our kids tomorrow. So I think that's enough. So take a look around the room. Every person in this room is playing a part. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your attention, and keep doing the great work.
The George H.W. Bush Volunteer of the Year. This award is given this year to 2 recipients who exemplify incredible service to a chapter. This is hands-on support through fundraising events, programs, grassroots events, and much, much more. We're so grateful to FootJoy this year for providing $5,000 to each of the 2 recipients' chapters. And with me today is FootJoy Ambassador and current FedEx St. Jude champion, Will Zalatoris. And I have a pretty cool announcement. So we're standing back there a minute ago, and he looks over my shoulder. He's like, what's FootJoy doing for the chapters? And I said, they're each getting $5,000. And what did you say?
I said I'll match it.
So thank you for that. That's so generous. So for our first recipient, with more than 17 years of service to her chapter, this coach, mentor, and board member serves as a true role model and inspiration for others. She's initiated 3 program locations on her own and has recruited more than 20 volunteers and donors. She's a huge champion of the school program, and she's on her own got 17 elementary schools involved in her community. She supports the chapter's main fundraiser, is an advocate for the LPGA USGA Girls Golf Program, and plays golf with participants outside of programs. She's also an incredible mentor and is a mentor to the first African-American female golfer on the University of Delaware golf team, which continues today. Her name is most fitting of this award and is a true representation of her character. This Volunteer of the Year is genuinely kind, caring, and she contributes to building game changers. Congratulations to Karen Hart of the First Tee of Delaware. Unfortunately, Karen couldn't join us, so my good friend and program director, Charma Bell, is here to accept on her behalf. Okay, thanks, Charma. Thanks for nominating Karen. You can stay up here. Yeah, you can stay up here. Okay. Don't hurt Will. Okay, for our next recipient, board member, committee member, chair, mentor, ambassador, volunteer. Since 1999, this individual has served on the board, has been on the marketing committee, and has been chair of the fundraising committee for 20 years. Who wants to raise their hand to do that? Her efforts have culminated in over $1 million in donations and over 4,000 hours of service. She is really creating opportunities for Wisconsin youth. Her contributions to marketing and awareness have elevated the chapter's impact in storytelling, especially related to their Learning Center and their Legacy Society. This George H.W. Bush Volunteer of the Year is truly representative of exceptional service and commitment to a chapter, and she's truly someone who is essential to the fabric of her chapter. Congratulations and a huge thank you to Deb Denor from First Tee South Central Wisconsin.
Congratulations, Karen and Dale. We really appreciate everything you do for the young people within your community.
Yesterday, we hosted the Key Commitments Golf Outing presented by American Hole-in-One at Brookhaven Golf Club. It was just a bit colder than we were expecting, but a lot of fun. And so please help me celebrate our winners who are listed here on the screen.
Prior to breaking out to our educational sessions, Carlos and I have a few reminders about the rest of the afternoon as well as the evening.
So if you haven't already, please be sure to download the Network Summit event app supported by John Deere. Just go into the App Store on your mobile device and download it there. The instructions to log in are on the screen. That'll be your one-stop shop for everything Network Summit. You can track your schedule, share photos, and chat with your peers in the discussions forum.
Yeah, please also visit the exhibits out here at the Network Summit Expo right out here at the Chantilly foyer right outside there. As Lexi mentioned earlier, we have bag tags by the registration. Be sure that you get your badges through the different vendors there. If you fill that particular bag tag up, take it over to the digital drop zone and you will enter a drawing to win an iPad or a tablet.
And while you're at the digital drop zone, talk with our HQ technical support team and get a closer look at the new digital yardage book, new Salesforce technologies, including the coaching app, the alumni web network, and much more.
Please wear this green wristband that I have on to the dinner tonight. It will be here in this room. It starts at 7 o'clock. Our cocktail hour starts at 6.
Thank you again to all of our wonderful sponsors who sponsored our awards today, including CapTech, the Toro Company, and FootJoy, as well as our presenting sponsor, Century Golf Partners, and our supporting sponsor, 3M. We could not have made this possible without them. Please thank them. Okay, we are running just a little bit behind this morning, so we're going to shift to first sessions. First sessions are going to start at 11 a.m. and end at 12:15 a.m. to give you a little break here. So thank you for being here and enjoy the day.
Yeah.